Unfiltered and unapologetic.
And welcome to another exciting episode of the Best Damn Wrestling Podcast with your two favorite hosts, Keithan and Sherrod. What's going on, man?
Yup. We back on the saddle.
Yeah, I know it. We should just start at this stage. I feel like we should just stop saying it.
I know. It
Yeah,
seemed
we
like the
should just
last
stop
three
saying.
episodes has been a return.
Yeah, but it just, I mean, for the sake of anybody who can consistently and loyally listens to us, we really appreciate your support. We've just been trying to find better material to bring you. I mean, there's not much out there to talk about anymore. Or
Yeah,
is
a
that
lot of
just
people
me?
are going on hiatuses. Like they're really just stepping away from wrestling as a whole because it's a shit show. Everything it's not the same as it was around this time last year or the year before that. It's
Well, it
completely
seemed like
taking
there
a
was so
nosedive.
much promise, and yeah, I know COVID kind of messed up some of that, and hopefully everybody's being as safe as humanly possible. But uh, I, hopefully we can bring you something worth listening to today, and kind of segueing into what you just said. The topic we're covering today is rise and fall of WWE,
That
and
shit dead.
if it, if, for lack of better words, we're watching it being eulogized. I feel like,
Yeah, I
but
feel
I
like this
mean,
is
we'll
going to be
talk.
a eulogy of sorts.
Yeah, we'll talk about that and just I it's just gonna be kind of an open forum, and hopefully you guys enjoy the episode. And if you do, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell for any type of new episodes or anything that come out. Don't forget to comment if you enjoy what we put out. But we're just gonna kind of have some fun with this and just let it be free form and go from there. I mean, I'm just kind of excited to see where it takes us the rest of the episode. But man, I mean, just let's get the obvious out the way. Something obviously is very wrong. A lot of people have speculated, that maybe they're trying to sell the company or whatnot, or something's going on. I mean, but it's obvious that there's something going on. Would you agree?
Absolutely, especially with the hiring of Nick Khan. That's obvious, especially with his track record of coming in and helping companies sell their business. That's basically all he's doing. It's like with all the releases, it basically boils down to them making the company cheaper and more appealing to someone to come and buy.
But I mean, man, did you ever think that we would even be sitting here having this conversation? I mean,
No,
let's just get in the time machine for a second. Do you? It seems like only yesterday, 1996 was here, and this was just wrestling was the hottest probably it had ever been, at least in our minds. I mean, but how do you go from the Attitude Era and Stone Cold and to The Rock and Triple H and The Undertaker, Mankind, and the corporation, the nation, degeneration? How do you go from all of that to this? Like,
well,
I mean,
quite frankly, by something that you said on past episodes, the worst thing Vince McMahon could have ever done was go public.
oh
That
yeah,
that's that was the beginning of the end right there.
easily. I think easily going corporate just completely. And the crazy thing is, ironically, in hindsight, they actually did a storyline on this in the Attitude Era, where the corporation was, for lack of better words, a parody on like what it would be like for them to be a corporation. And lo and behold, look at where they're at now. I just, man, I mean, even before the Attitude Era, you had Hogan, you had, Yokozuna, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, and Bret Hart kind of were right in there. They were kind of birthing that Attitude Era in, or whatnot, right, or helping to birth it. I mean, but look at all the people that passed through and all the stuff that went on. I always thought that WWE would be like Coca-Cola. It would never go out of business. It would never go away. The quality would never be, and not saying that they're going out of business, but the quality and the name would always be there. It would always be there. But now you're looking at a time where it's like, will there be one in 10 years?
That's the real question. Will there be one? Or I personally think that this is a move from Vince McMahon to take it to the grave with him. I don't think he's leaving it to anybody. I mean,
okay, so let me ask this question. Would you want it to go to anybody else?
I absolutely would. I would love it to go to Triple H.
That's probably not going to happen.
Oh no, it's definitely not. Especially now with everything he's gone through. Triple H is pretty much done for.
That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. I mean, I wouldn't mind it. We've seen what he can do with NXT, but and this is also an Attitude Era veteran. He was one of the fathers of the Attitude Era, for lack of better words. So I don't. Here's the thing, and we talked about this today. Here's the thing I think that's the biggest fall for WWE. Once you got to that plateau, I think, can we agree? What was the summit, the top of the mountain for WWE? To me, this is my personal opinion, was March, if I'm not mistaken, March 2001, WrestleMania 17. I could be iffy on the dates, but they were at their absolute peak. The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin in the main event. The Hardys, the Dudleys, and Edge and Christian had tore the house down that night. Undertaker and Triple H had a great match. I mean, this was the highest of the high. Their mid-carders were up-and-comers. Their main eventers were made men. Everything was at its peak. That was the rise. The absolute peak of WWE was WrestleMania 17. And I know some people say, well, what about WrestleMania 19? Well, what about it? Yeah, you had a couple here and there, after that. But I think that is in the running for top 5 WrestleMania of all time.
That's my favorite WrestleMania of all time. That's the best one.
And it's crazy because the summit was that night. But then also the decline to me started that night too in that main event, because you had built Stone Cold Steve Austin up for 5 years as the anti-hero and the or whatnot of the anti-establishment of the WWF/E. It was still F at that time. He was the anti-hero. Everything that happened, or everything that put them on the map to that point, came from him and his feud with Vince McMahon, or the Mr. McMahon character. And that night, he turns heel. And it's like they just never got it back. Yeah, The Rock and Triple H had that nice run or whatnot for a time or whatever, but The Rock didn't stay much longer after that.
That's true. Shortly after that, he started with the movies around like 2003. That's when he really started going heavy with it.
Yeah.
Because he had that Hollywood gimmick.
John Cena was able to hold the mount up just a little bit longer, and then sprinkle in those Shawn Michaels and Undertaker and Triple H and Undertaker matches, and you had some things that kind of slowed the decline down. I think Angle and Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 19 was one of those moments.
WrestleMania 19 was a great WrestleMania.
It was, but it wasn't 17.
No, absolutely not.
I think 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, that was just a great streak of, because 13, you had the Austin Bret Hart I Quit match that made Austin famous. And then I believe 14 was when Shawn Michaels dropped the belt to Austin after the screw job, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a long time, so I might be wrong. 15 was, you might have me on this, because I think 15 happened around
15 was Stone Cold and Rock.
That was the first time,
That
right?
was the first
After
one.
Stone Cold brought the beer truck out, gave McMahon's beer back.
Right.
Okay, that was iconic. And I'm just calling out the top matches at this point, like in the top storylines. But you had so many iconic moments. That was literally their climb, their ascent to the peak. That was the peak. And in between all of those events, let me just throw some stuff out there. The TLC matches, that was on the way up. The with Edge, Christian, Dudley's, and the Hardys. The Trish Stratus and Lita, that was on the way up. Those were top moments. The hard, I don't know, you might fight me on this one, but I thought the 24/7 hardcore rules would
that was great.
New Age Outlaws, that was on the way up. APA, that was on the way up. Everything, all of this stuff was a culmination of them climbing to the top of that mountain. That was their rise. I think you can even say the rise started probably around 91 or so, or whatever, as they started transitioning more towards Bret and Shawn and all of that. I mean, even when Bret Hart turned heel a little bit before he left to go to WCW, you could kind of see that there was a shift going on to where they were getting away from a lot of cartoonish bullshit to where, okay, this is real. Pillman got a gun. That was on the way
right.
up. You know,
it was more reality based.
And
cartoonish.
Yeah. The nation, even the whole thing with the nation and The Rock coming into his own and taking the nation from Farouk, all of this stuff was on the way up. I'm saying all that to say this. That's one of the problems. You'll never get that back, because as soon as they hit 17, on their way down, they decided, hey, let's go public. So Vince McMahon, thinking it's a business savvy move, I think he went from being a millionaire to a billionaire in that little pocket when he decided to do that. Well, hey, guess what? You can't do all of the things that you used to do. Even if you didn't go public, I think today, because of the PC climate and a lot of things that go on television and things like that, you wouldn't be able to have Sable come out and be nude. You wouldn't be able to have with t-shirt spots. You wouldn't be able to do the edgy. Pillman Got a Gun would never have made television.
Absolutely not. Not today.
The crucifixion scene with Stephanie McMahon never would have made television. I don't even think the Ministry of Darkness would have been allowed on TV.
The whole thing with Triple H and Stephanie getting married with her being drugged,
the nation parody is considered blackface today, but back then that was okay. Right. Even all the outlandish things that DX did or whatnot at that time, and I'm talking original DX of Triple H and Shawn Michaels. There's no way you could do that today.
No, having women
DX
flash.
Outlaw. Well, not even that. Austin's hand gestures, like that wasn't even bleeped out in 95, 96, 97. That's when it was at its peak, because it was raw, it was edgy, it was real. You kept pushing the envelope. I don't know if you know this, but I go back to this because it's one of my all-time favorite segments. Pillman Got a Gun actually got them temporarily kicked off the air, if I'm not mistaken, for a brief second. They had to actually issue an apology or whatnot and stuff and say this will never, and it never happened again. But you know what? It was one of the highest rated segments on Raw. Raw
still
is
talked
War
about today.
Warzone. Raw is War and Warzone were absolutely awesome. It is a far cry from Raw today. Raw sucks. Raw is War. Awesome. You did not miss an episode. You didn't miss SmackDown. Remember when SmackDown used to just be one time a year? You would get maybe one Thursday night.
It was a
and it would
special.
be a big thing. Yeah, it was a special, and they would do it one day. And I think that also contributed to their fall. You started trying to do too much television, and that could, I think some people might say, and if you agree with us in this comment or tell us if you think we're right or wrong, SmackDown became to me at least, a response to WCW Thunder. It never should have happened.
That's true. That's true.
Now, Damon at SmackDown after one of your biggest stars' signature moves, genius, absolute genius. But Raw is War or Warzone or whatever you want to call it at that point in time was enough because you had people. If I only see something one time a week, what am I going to do? I'm gonna come back the following week because I got to know what happened.
Right.
How many times did they end segments and you like, I can't miss next week? I gotta know.
Yeah, it like you felt like something was missing because you'll come to school and they'll be like everyone will be talking about it and you don't know what happened.
Well, not even that. I don't know if you remember. They also used to have a magazine that you'll never get that back.
Yeah, that was
I got
special.
busted in elementary school for having the Billy Gunn Attitude magazine at school. But those magazines were, dude, that was a classic. I wish I still had that.
Bro, those were good times. It's just like getting in trouble for shit that we saw on TV, and they were like really catering to more of a college, more of a grown
A young
crowd.
adult. I think the demographic at the time was probably I would, some people say 18 to 35. I would go further than that and say hell 15 or 12 to, because we were watching it and we were 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old and were
Exactly.
able to kind of keep up with everything that was going on. Now going back and watching them with the benefit of being an adult today, if I had been older, you had been older during that time, it would have definitely had more significant meaning. I think that's why a lot of 40 and 50-year-olds and late 30s, they lament what wrestling has become today because, again, that was the peak. And the fall started at the same time that the peak happened. It's crazy because right after that, another thing that contributed to the decline, they never should have bought WCW. You should have left that
That
where it
was the
was.
worst thing they could have done. I don't care
That
how
was
much
the
they were drowning.
absolute worst. I get what he was trying to do. I mean, but that has contributed to the decay and the rot that you have gotten to today. When there is a monopoly on anything, you lose the ability to be competitive. And seeing that there was nowhere else for talent to go, you used to always have the threat of, oh, if you guys don't utilize me, I'll go to WWE. If you guys don't utilize me,
Right.
I'll go to WCW, or hey, I'll wrestle in ECW because I, not getting off a topic, but as an example, Rob Van Dam was one of the best wrestlers for a long, long time. He did not start wrestling mainstream until ECW absolutely went out of business, and he had nowhere else to go.
Yeah, because he was more of a tape trader wrestler because
Yeah,
ECW didn't even really have a lot of exposure except on pay-per-view.
yeah, but nobody could do what he did. He was charismatic. He was box office, But that's what I'm saying. Talent was they were spread everywhere. There was parity. And then when they bought them, that because the alliance angle is still one of the worst things. They mishandled that. It was poorly done. They didn't have all the people wanted to see. That could have that could have stopped the slide and potentially pushed them back up into another plateau if it had been done right. I mean, Sting versus Undertaker at WrestleMania, that would have made you some money. Goldberg and Steve Austin, that would have made you some money. NWO versus DX, that would have made you some money. I
Big time.
mean, do I need to keep going?
No, 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 not at all. Yeah, they definitely hit the beginning of their decline right there. They were able to save themselves a little bit after the invasion with the Ruthless Aggression era, but it didn't last long.
It wasn't quite right there. It was very close to the Attitude Era, but not. They still were edgy at that time. I mean, let's just go through some of the things in the Ruthless Aggression era. Yeah, Snitsky punting the baby. You know, the Kane and
Katie Vick.
I was gonna say Lita and Edge and the Rated R Superstar. You know, I think CM Punk and John Cena during that time. John Cena at one point in time was edgy before he became sanitized and like our version of Hulk Hogan. The Doctor of Thugonomics is still one of my all-time favorite wrestlers.
Oh, he's a fan favorite. He's a fan favorite.
The pops he used to get when he first, you knew he was coming up when he was U.S. champ, and like his music would hit, and people would just be. And I'm not talking. I mean, John Cena was over as over could be.
Absolutely.
There was no disputing that. When he was box office, especially, and all the crazy things he did, or whatnot. His move set, they made him change the name later on to an attitude adjustment. But do you remember what the original name of that
the FU.
was, don't you? Yeah.
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 And then
like,
just dissing the crowd every time he came out. He would do a freestyle before every match and get a bunch of heat on himself. Even if they were cheering him, he would get out there and go get some heat where the opposing teams throw back. And he just mastered it. OVW taught him well.
Yeah, he was awesome. I would have. I mean, the Doctor of Thugonomics. Again, he held the line. I don't even just give him all the credit. I mean, you had to. Their decline was slow. It wasn't immediate. Like they went, oh, okay, great, and now they're just downhill. No, it was him, Eddie Guerrero. I gotta give credit to JBL. His little run as the champion or whatever, that kind of held the line.
Yeah, the top heel. I fucking hated him, but he did his part.
Yeah, Eddie Guerrero, Brock Lesnar, Chris Benoit. I know people, that's not a popular opinion. I get it, but the guy at the time was one of the top guys. Yeah, I don't care. He was one of the top guys. Yeah, that just is what it is. Chris Jericho, before AEW. Now I don't. I mean,
Yeah. Chris Jericho now is a shadow of the man they used to be.
I mean, the guy's 50 years old. I'm gonna give him a break, but like compared to what he was then, I mean, I think you even got to give Booker T doesn't get enough credit for how good he was doing that.
Oh, absolutely. The way he was able to transition, he was the best transition from WCW besides Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit. He was one of the top guys.
Even going back to the Attitude Era, all the shit Jericho used to say to Stephanie, and
my God,
way that there's no way Deborah, there's no way, and I enjoyed all of that. Deborah coming down with the shit Jeff Jarrett used to say about women.
Yeah.
And how him and China had that good housekeeping match. There's no fucking way. You won't ever get that back. You'll never get that back.
No, you won't. Even there was this one time where they did an angle with Edge in China. It might have had something to do with the Intercontinental title because she won the Intercontinental title. You won't see that again neither because of how everything is.
No, you won't. Not
I remember
a publicly traded company. Now, some people say Impact did it with Tessa Blanchard and Sami Callihan, but that's not Impact and WWE are two different entities.
Yeah. Impact's not publicly traded, and they're not as big as WWE. They're basically an indie promotion with a TV deal. That's basically it.
But I mean, I know we again, it's freeform. I know it sounds like we're rambling, but that drives home the first point I made. You'll never get that back. All the things we've been talking about, you'll never get those things back. They'll never allow you to do those things again. So, and I think that they've gotten confused and think, oh, people will accept a sanitized version of that. But for some of us diehards that's been there since the beginning, that's not gonna work. I mean, they've tried to do some edgy angles here or there. Recently, I don't know of I'll give you a prime example. One of the better things they've done over the last 3 or 4 years was when Becky Lynch led the invasion against Raw or whatnot before Survivor Series, and she the episode where she got her nose broken.
By Nia Jax, yeah.
They did that very well. That was very well done. I don't know whose idea it was, but it was very well done. I thought that one of the women have division, and we've talked about this since we started doing this. Some of the things that they were able to do and have been able to do has kind of it's kept you interested to a degree, but they don't give them enough room and credit to do anything. And then it's like when they finally do get something rolling, they fuck it up. Because
they can't leave it alone.
I was just gonna say everything is so micromanaged and it's so sanitized or whatnot that, and I get it. They have a lot more small children viewers than we had back then, but I mean, you can't. Remember when we used to think wrestling was real.
I miss kayfabe, bro. I miss that. I don't people sticking to it. I just really miss it. Yeah, that's what made it so good because you really thought it was real. But nowadays you got social media and fucking reality shows and everybody being goddamn friendly and shit. It's like
they got away from what made wrestling great. And I mean, when you get to talking about the downside, the slide again, some of the top things we listed so far, Stone Cold going heel, we're trying to be cute. Some things you don't mess with. And I think for instance, John Cena not going heel after he became what he became, it's probably one of the best things to happen. Yeah, it gets boring after a while, but some people you just can't touch. That's a legacy guy. You probably can't touch that. Now there could be some commentary on John for not wanting to change, but I think that was a good thing. But Stone Cold going heel at that WrestleMania kind of that derailed the whole. You spent 5 years building this big thing. I mean, when you think about it, not only are you not going to get back the ability to do television and stuff the way they used to do it, a lot of these people that used to work there, he had cream of the crop talent, old stars and great wrestling minds that worked not just for him but with him, and him being Vince McMahon. But now you got a bunch of people that don't know shit about applesauce about anything, and they just write this shit because it looks good on the resume.
Yeah, they get fucking TV writers that wrote bad comedy, and then they don't know how to do shit. Like they just fired that lady who went on a podcast a few months ago and said, "I don't know anything about wrestling, but they hired me." And they fired her after she did the interview. But that you got a whole team of motherfuckers like that don't know shit about wrestling, and you wonder why your product suck. I don't know how they're still above 1 million viewers. I guess it's just the muscle memory.
That's it. I mean, first of all, again, another rise for them that they had. They had the best commentating duo in the business.
Yes.
Tony Schiavone, and I think was it at the time it might have been Mike Tenay, Tony Schiavone on WCW. They were good, but they were
Larry Zbyszko.
Oh, there you go. They won King and JR. They King and JR are by far the best commentating team that will ever exist in wrestling. Period.
They had personality. And they knew what they were talking about.
They knew what they were doing. Exactly. And that goes back to having the right minds around him. These are two guys who were seasoned, who had, Lawler came from Memphis and was a top guy there and helped build that territory. And JR worked with Bill Watts and Mid-South. And he had some stroke in WCW when in the early 90s or late 80s or whatever. These guys knew what they were doing. I don't think JR gets enough credit because some of these young guys, the Hardys, Edge and Christian, I think he had something to do with Jericho coming in. He brought a lot of guys in there.
Yeah, as a talent relations, the head of talent relations, he negotiated the contracts. He was able to renegotiate contracts, and he was able to have a hand in scouting people along with Jim Cornette. and some of the other people
Pat
behind the scenes.
Patterson,
Yeah,
Jerry Briscoe, J.J. Dillon was there for a while. Bill Watts himself was there for a while. That's what I'm saying. You're never gonna get that back because all of these guys are either gone or they don't want to work there.
yeah, and the simple reason is always the same: Vince McMahon and the direction he's taking the company. It's not fun for people anymore. They don't love it when they're at WWE.
Uh, the accumulation of talent, but there was a point in time where I don't ever think that roster was that big. They had maybe 30 to 50 people tops back in the good days, and I think they just overdid it. Now, again, the Ruthless Aggression era produced some good wrestling and good TV for a while, but I feel like where the Attitude Era may have lasted 6 or 7 years, the Ruthless Aggression era was what, 4?
Two, maybe. Well, to me, I really count it as two. It might have been four. Let's see, because
Another
Ruthless
another
Aggression.
another fall was they got away from wrestling and started doing other stuff. That WWE
Yeah, the
restaurant,
skits.
that was a disaster. The
Oh,
XFL,
WWF New York,
disaster.
and yeah.
Yeah, they just started branding for the sake of branding, and it took the focus off the product. It took the focus off the product. I mean, if they had stuck to toys and video games and just did the shows, we'd probably still be hooked.
Well, my thing is, if if you're fucking a wrestling promotion and you want to do all these skits and all this acting, you have a fucking movie company. Make more goddamn movies. Don't put it in the fucking wrestling show.
Yeah, but
Fucking
I mean,
ridiculous.
speaking of acting, another issue for me was the promos used to be unscripted. You go out there and
Yes.
talk, and you would always have an opening segment for like 25, 30 minutes.
Yeah. And
I would just sit there. I could watch 25, 30 minutes was just promos. Now these guys are told what to say. They get their handed a script or whatnot. How many great promos came out of them just going out there and just talking? The Rock was one of the greatest promo. He never he he was great. Triple H was a master at this. I mean, how
absolutely.
many
15 to 20 minutes on a promo to start off the show.
easily,
And he would set
easily
up the whole show.
set up. I was just gonna say was set up the entire show. I easily wanted to be Stone Cold Steve Austin, great. The Undertaker when he did talk, great. Shawn Michaels, great. Bret Hart, great. These guys were coming off the cuff. There was no John Cena to a degree, great. I don't think he has things written for him, but he can't for some of the things he says and how it gets over. But you can just tell that they're made to say some of this stuff now. The crowd. When is the last time you heard a large pop? Well, I think the last big one I heard was I was at Rumble in 2019 and no 2020 and Edge came out. That was a big pop then. I heard that. But outside of that, do you
Yeah.
remember when the
Recently, I
glass used to
think.
break?
Oh, absolutely. Even still to this day, when the glass breaks, like you, especially this coming WrestleMania, you know Stone Cold's going to show up there. I mean, that pop's going to be crazy. But the most
Yeah.
recent pop I heard was probably when Becky Lynch and Brock Lesnar came back. That was a pretty big pop.
Yeah,
But they
but as
ruined it
fast
soon
as that,
after.
but with that's just you gonna get one for a return. But
Yeah.
what about on a regular Monday night? Do you remember what the pop was like after The Rock won the title at Backlash 2000, or
Oh,
after
crazy.
Stone Cold won the title at WrestleMania 14?
Crazy. The roof came off the place.
Yeah, and they announced them the new WWF blah 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 with the belt with the eagle on it. The back when the title actually meant something, it didn't change hands every week.
And the announcement would get a pop too. As soon as Howard Finkel will say, and new, and that would get a pop. That's how
Yep.
invested people were into it. That
I
shit's
mean
gone. I
they
miss
they
that shit.
had yeah, not just that the matches the matches are not the same. The last great match that I can think of, and I know people are going to fucking crucify me for this, but the last great match I can think of is that I thought that last woman standing match at the Revolution pay-per-view was that was great. That was great.
That was great. That was great. And they should have did another pay-per-view of that. But they always want to fuck up shit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people remember The Rock. I think it was The Rock and Triple H Iron Man 60-minute Iron Man match. The I Quit matches they had. The Hell in the Air. Nobody will ever forget the Hell in the Cell with Mick Foley and the Undertaker. Shawn Michaels and the Undertaker Hell in the Cell was great.
Yeah, a lot of people overlook that one because most of the highlights are from Mick Foley and Undertaker, but Undertaker and Shawn Michaels really broke that Hell in a Cell match in well.
Yeah, that was brutal. That it was brutal for its time period. But
Yeah.
that, I mean, I just, I think now, and again, one of the things that they were good at back then, they developed their talent. Now they don't even. It's like we're gonna kill a guy before he can get started, or girl, and they'll never get back what they had, and we'll just we can't do anything with them. Let's move on.
They want to do everything for them. They don't let them sit and figure out their character and build on it.
They didn't do that back then. Matter of fact, the European title, the Intercontinental title, the tag team titles, those were building blocks and stepping stones to find out who could potentially be the next group of guys to come up.
Right.
It meant something to be IC champ. It meant something to be European champ. That was a big deal back then because that you usually was going to end up being king of the ring. They got away from that. King of the Ring would always let you know who was the next up and comers, because if you won King of the Ring, okay, you starting to kind of transcend into that top tier where you can be a contender.
And you can push to the moon.
Yeah, Stone Cold, when he won King of the Ring, that was the start of something.
Right. It set everything into motion. Now the shit isn't as special anymore. Like, you remember back when they would even have backstage segments, it would be mainly focusing on building the main event.
They don't really do backstage segments anymore.
Not like that. They'll do some throwaway shit that doesn't even matter, that's not setting up anything. It's like they're trying to make it like a soap opera.
It's too much ha-ha. It's too much ha-ha. It was never, you had comedy spots, but you also had, like you said, a lot of setup to telling of the story, what was going on. You were almost some nights, depending on what the storyline was, they would present and play detective and be trying to figure out, what's gonna happen with this, or what, they had a way of sucking you in. Like they would get to a certain point in the show and they would go to commercial, and when they come back, the event already happened, and all you can see is the clip of what happened during the break. But You didn't want to go too far. I can remember when I used to flip channels back when WCW was on at the same time, and I would be scared I'm gonna miss something depending on how good the story was, and I would flip back.
Yeah, you didn't want to flip back because you wanted to see how this was going to turn out. But it's just the long-term booking isn't even there anymore. Like, nobody books long-term. They basically book a feud for 4 weeks. Or even less than that, because they scrap so much shit.
So here's my question. Is there anything, what do you, as far as is there anything that you think long-term or short-term, it doesn't matter, that can be done to salvage or maybe get back some of what made them great at that time? Like, or is this just a done deal?
The only way that they can go back to or salvage any kind of what used to make them special is for Vince McMahon to step down and take his stooges with him. That's the
Well,
only way.
I don't think that's going to happen. I
That's
mean,
never gonna happen.
at this stage, it seems like what's going on is we're satisfying the ego and comedic creativity, if you will, of an old man who's probably past the point of being, you know,
Same.
I, yeah, and for lack of better words, and a bunch of people who making a lot of money to just kind of entertain him, because some of the things they've done over the last couple years have absolutely made no sense. The fact that AJ Styles is no longer a main event player makes no sense. The fact that Otis somehow won Money in the Bank and you did nothing with that makes no sense. What
Yeah.
they did to Keith Lee and Karrion Kross makes no fucking sense. How they crucified Andrade and Aleister Black makes no sense. I mean, I can go on all night about what does not make any sense. What they did to Shinsuke Nakamura when he at the time was almost as over. That match was built up between him and AJ Styles at WrestleMania 35, and the way that they ended it and turned him heel to boot and killed his career as a main eventer in that over here, as opposed to just in New Japan, makes no sense. It's asinine. The list goes on and on.
All
You
this
can
to please the same old man.
and
That's it.
and they're still caught up on height and build when
Yeah.
most guys now are not even. I mean, now it's a lot more athleticism involved. Now it used to be feats of strength. Everybody was big on how big a guy was, and that during that time period, you were talking about guys like Brock, who power slammed, superplexed the Big Show and broke the ring. That was a big moment. That was iconic. Or Goldberg when he picked up the Giant, also Big Show. Or when he jackhammered Hulk Hogan to win the title in the Georgia Dome. Those were big moments for those guys during that point in time. When John Cena picked up Big Show and did the FU, that was a big thing. But I mean, they've done a lot of stuff over the last couple of years that just absolutely make no sense. I mean, what canceling or changing the format for NXT makes no fucking sense. You can't explain why when NXT at one point in time was the better program than
Yes.
Raw or SmackDown put together.
Their takeovers were outdoing their big pay-per-views.
That's why they stopped doing them on the same weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a personal hit from Vince McMahon. I think he's been wanting to do that for the longest, and the fact that they lost to AEW during the Wednesday Night War, it
But
was just all he needed.
that was even a bad move.
It was a
That is a
horrible
develop.
move.
That is you put your developmental talent against guys that used to be on the main roster and and were top guys in your company at one point in time, and you expected something different. I think Vince has gotten to the point, or maybe it's not even just Vince. Let me stop using him. I think that WWE as a whole has gotten to the point that it's WWE. We got the best. We got the best production crew. We got more TV time and airtime. We're more globally recognized, and we're all over the place. And people just take whatever we put out, or whatever they'll automatically choose what they know. But I'm not gonna do that if I have a choice. Now, when I had no choice and I couldn't flip the channel, yeah, I'll put up with it. I'll
Absolutely.
tell you it sucked and I hated it. But you know what? There are certain things about it I like, and I'm die hard about wrestling. So I'll just watch the shit and pray for something good every now and again. But when you give me a different choice, which nobody's had that choice in the last 20 years, I don't think they ever understood. Hey, I don't have to watch this shit anymore.
Right, exactly. They had different alternatives, especially now. Indie wrestling is. I just saw an article about Jeff Jarrett saying that like the indie scene is the best it's been in years. He's thinking about starting another promotion because it's so
Oh
good right
no.
now. Yeah, a lot of people saying that he don't really need to do it, but at the same
Yeah,
time,
no, he don't.
it's
And Jeff
just
Jarrett's got a great wrestling mind, and he's a pretty good talent. But he just, yeah, please God, no.
Yeah,
No,
he tried it. He tried it a few years ago, and that
Global
shit.
Force Wrestling,
Yeah, that shit crumbled just
TNA.
as fast as it
Yeah,
started.
like no, but no, they. I mean, I really think they have not been able to get past the fact that people are now starting to reject them for the decisions they're making. And the truth be told, it's a lack of. I think it's just a lack of overall care. Like, why am I concerned? You're gonna watch this anyway, you know.
Yeah,
I and I think now they're finally realizing, well, people aren't gonna just watch this,
yeah,
you
and
know.
now it's they're seeing it more so in the physical presence of the audience in the arenas as opposed to just the ratings because now they just ran a building that AEW will be running like in the next month or the next couple weeks, and they undersold, and AEW outsold them. But that's been the
But
case at a lot of their
it's
venues.
been building for a while. I mean, there's just a legitimate lack of care about how we as the consumer feel about the product. And over time, I don't care how good the product is if there's a lack of care and how it's being
Right.
presented. I mean, hell, I could tell you that you're getting the finest steak in all the world, but if I keep putting dog shit on top of it, you're not gonna eat it. So
Absolutely not.
with that being said, I'll give you a prime example. What happened in WrestleMania a couple of years ago, where they ran so far over on time, people had to figure out how to get home, and it
Yeah,
was just like, oh, that's what I'm saying.
they didn't
That's
give a fuck.
another thing I want to put on the list as a contribution to the fall. WrestleMania used to be 2 hours, 3 hours tops, and it was the cream of the crop, the best stories, the best wrestlers, and everything. Every match on that card had a significant meaning. There was just nobody was ever on the card to just be on the damn card. Nobody.
Right.
Nothing was ever done on that card to just be done. But now it's like they're trying to turn. It's almost like they're turning wrestling into a Disney World experience. You're buying an experience now, and not coming in to see a guy get even with another guy who been hounding him for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, or he been chasing his title for a year, and he finally get the chance. Everybody knew Stone Cold was gonna be the champion eventually. He had been chasing the belt, and he had fought all the people that had it, but he just never could quite get there. And he found same thing with The Rock in 2000 or whatnot. When him and Triple H were going at it, The Rock would just get so close, so close, so close. They would have
And he would
matches.
get
Just
screwed over.
he would always get fucked up. And when he finally won it, it was a big thing because he won it, and he had been fighting for it that entire time. The build up to that was great. They do not do anything like that anymore, at all. I mean, even Mick Foley, who only won a title once or twice, but even as Cactus Jack and stuff, when he was going after it and trying to beat Triple H or whatever, there was meaning to that. Those
Yeah, it
matches
was
had meaning.
thrill in the chase. But now it's just like even like how you were saying with WrestleMania, how they just have a bunch of filler. They just want to put everybody on the card, and everyone doesn't need to be on the fucking card. Now
Yeah, it's not.
WrestleMania spans
It's the
out two
best of the
days.
best. Yeah, it's the best of the best. Like who's the best? Okay, let's put them on the card. Every match at WrestleMania used to have the potential to steal the show, tear the house down.
Yeah,
I
and
don't
now
care if
you
it was
have
the
too
first
many
match or
fucking
the last match.
titles.
Yeah, you do.
Too many fucking
You
titles.
do.
Too many, and some of this shit doesn't even have storylines going on. It's just like recycled matches that you've seen that they put on Raw and SmackDown, and then they carry it over to the pay per view and they put a stipulation on it. Like that's gonna change something. It's fucking ridiculous. It's lazy booking.
They have not done anything to build up a cadre of talent. I mean, again, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Triple H, Undertaker, Kane, Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar. These guys were Chris Jericho, Eddie Guerrero, JB. These guys were all around at the same time. And then
Absolutely.
after them, Edge, Christian, Jeff Hardy, Randy Orton, Batista, John Cena, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, those guys, they've always had a build up going. They you know, any combination of those guys could be the ones fighting for the title at a pay per view.
Absolutely.
So they would get
Absolutely.
you into a building, and when you thought that story was over, here come another one, or here come that guy back, or whatnot. I mean, there was no end in sight to what you could do with those guys. But they haven't done a very good job of stockpiling talent to take over. They just keep putting the same product out there over and over and over. Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, Braun Strowman, he used to be until he got, canned or
Yep.
let go. They haven't done anything different. There's no originality anymore or anything like that. Again, it's just like, well, we're gonna put it out here. You'll watch it. But yeah,
Yeah,
they
it's
have
just
not done.
whatever.
You had can't miss talent in Ricochet, in Aleister Black, in Andrade, in Ciampa, in Johnny Gargano, in Shinsuke, in Finn Balor, in
Yeah.
Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, the Bobby Roode. The list go on and on. These are guys that you could have kept on rolling with. They
And they were
never
already
got the chance
made.
to.
They
They
got
already
their
were made.
character over. They were decent on the mic. A lot of them were beyond decent. It was
Yep.
special. Like all the hard work was done in NXT, but then they got forced over to the main roster, and they got ruined by motherfuckers who want to just take over and tweak the damn. It's ridiculous. Like, how the fuck do you not get something that's already made? Why would you touch something that's already made? Aleister Black was the hottest
Couldn't
star
miss.
in
He was
NXT.
can't miss. He was
Oh my
can't.
god.
Andrade was can't miss in my personal opinion.
Absolutely.
Those
That
two
that
alone,
match that he
that
had,
match they had to win the and take over New Orleans. That was a
yes.
great goddamn match.
Come on, man. And then for Vince McMahon to tell Andrade the reason he didn't get a push is because he doesn't know English. What the fuck? He got over in NXT without even being that good at speaking
Didn't need it.
English. It's fucking ridiculous, man. It's an old dude who's out of touch, who's just killing it. He's killing his fucking company because he doesn't want to
But
leave it
that's
to
been the
anyone else.
commentary. Believe it or not, that's been the commentary for 10, 15 years now. So at what point do you stop talking and then you finally say, well, let me just get some assistance, or let me, uh, uh, I don't
You're
know.
never gonna get that from him.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, it's just really sad to me what it's become, because I'll always remember what it was. And I think a lot of our listeners will always remember, what it was. You'll never be able to get that back. And I think that nostalgia factor is what has kept people, it's what's kept us engaged all these years. And again, I'm not saying that none of the recent stuff is bad. That's not what I think. Charlotte Flair is one of the better things that has happened to that company over the last 10 years. I think that Sasha Banks is also in that conversation, and Bailey. I think what Becky Lynch was able to do in that little time period where she was able to help main event and push women to the forefront of WrestleMania, that was a big deal. I think that, you got some guys who rose above the occasion, and been able to do some amazing stuff. Seth Rollins before was one of those guys. Daniel Bryan, I don't think he gets enough credit for what he did for that company before he finally got tired of the bullshit and left, or whatnot. I think um well, John Moxley now, but at the time, Dean Ambrose, what he was able to contribute as part of the Shield and even by himself
Right.
before they made him all goofy. They've had some good points, but for whatever reason, they've never been able to do anything with them. I'll give you another name to call, and that's Bray Wyatt. And
Yeah.
constantly, every single time. And now these guys are just shifting and transitioning over to the competition, and again, it almost looks like it's sabotaging to a degree. But a lot of the things we mentioned have contributed to the absolute fall of what I thought was gonna be, again, the staple wrestling promotion for probably my lifetime and the rest of my kids' lifetimes. You know,
Absolutely.
they're synonymous with longevity, and most people left where they were to come there. Now you're not even hearing that anymore.
Yeah, you're
They'll
not.
tell you,
They
I don't
can't
want
even
to
get
work there.
anyone there.
Yeah, they'll tell you they don't want to work there.
Yeah, they won't even take meetings with them anymore because of how everything is going right now. They gotta understand. A lot of people have friends. A lot of people in the wrestling industry are friends, close friends.
Right.
So if you mistreat their friend, they're not gonna come over to you. They're not even gonna entertain you. They're not even gonna like. I haven't even heard of WWE being in talks with anyone because
Well,
people
most
are
of the
not even
people
trying to.
that were coming in were being signed by Triple H. You know,
Exactly.
yeah, he did the leg work on that. It's Vince. But to be honest, in all the history of time or whatnot of them being on top, I don't think Vince has ever been the one to recruit anybody. You know, that he was always told, "Hey, let's look at this guy." You know, let's bring this guy in, or this guy wants to come in. Yeah, I don't think he ever went out and said, "Hey, I want you to come and be a part of this." Now, I could be wrong, but I've never heard any of those stories from anybody,
Yeah, I just
or
would hear
whatnot.
how he would call them after they've
Yeah,
confirmed their
or
interest.
they go to his house and meet, and some. But as far as him calling them saying, "I would like for you to come here, I can do something," no, that wasn't what he did. That wasn't his style. I figured, um, he kind of left that stuff for them to do. Hey, go find me somebody, or whatever. But and I think that goes back to one of my initial comments. When those guys were gone, nobody else can do that anymore. The JRs, the JJ Dillons, the Jim Cornettes, the guys that helped you develop talent and brought people to you.
Right.
Paul Heyman is still there, but I think he's more in name and body than
And
mind
that's
and,
another
and
thing.
input.
That's another thing. When Paul Heyman, um, during the pandemic, was over the Raw brand, he was about to push Andrade, Aleister Black, just to name a couple, and they took it away from him when he started pushing
Yeah,
them.
but see, that's another contribute to the fall. There's not enough continuity. You'll get some
Right.
rhythm with something, or you'll get some rhythm with a storyline, and then they'll just cut it off one day. You'll come in and one Monday you're talking about, I'm just using the name. You're talking about Charlotte and Becky Lynch, and then the next Monday all of a sudden you're talking about Becky Lynch and somebody else. It's like, what the hell happened to this story? Oh, we moved on. Well, I mean, it's kind of hard for you to keep my interest if you can't keep me engaged. They used to run slow burns. You don't even get that
Exactly.
anymore.
You don't get it. They don't even explain certain things. They just end it out of nowhere. It's like there's no kind of explanation for anything. Nothing makes sense. There's like there's no logical reason why certain people get into a rivalry. They just happen to pop up in it, and the promos are so written poorly, and
You can
it
tell
doesn't
now.
help.
You
Yeah,
used to not be able to figure that out. You definitely know something is not right.
absolutely.
But I mean, man, again, it just really I don't do this to bash the product because that I grew up on this. You did too, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners did too. And when you know what something used to be and how great it was, this dominated a majority of our childhoods and teenage years. And then you get to this point, and it's like, wow, it's just over. And you can tell it's over and it's dying a slow death. It's like watching somebody suffer. You
Right.
can't look away, but
You just want
it's
to put it
only a
out of
matter
its
of time.
misery like a
Yep.
whole racehorse.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So
That's
it's just, I mean, it's tragic to see where they were and the lead up to that, and then just the I mean, just the quick decline. It wasn't even 3 years ago that they were like, "Oh, AEW is not shit." You know, we're not worried about it. And now all of a
It's
sudden,
that company.
everybody that all of a sudden everybody's going over there, and we may very well be doing one of these for them, and at some point in time, if it gets to that point, but it still won't have the significance that this does. Not to me.
Right, because there's so much history left there,
Not
for
just history.
WWE.
They put themselves on a pedestal. Where's the Wrestling Hall of Fame?
WWE is the main one.
That's the only one. Where's most of all the old time? Where's all the wrestling archived at?
WWE own a lot of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Everything that ties us to the rich history of wrestling, to the Ric Flairs and the Dusty Rhodes and the Mid-South wrestling and the Nitro era, all of that stuff is owned by one entity. Now, if they go away or they're sold, what then?
Exactly.
And that's what makes it so tragic. Is like you stand to lose so much more than just a company Vince McMahon is a legend in his own right. I mean, yes, he may be a little bit senile and decrepit. I don't know, but I mean, allegedly he's old, and I don't know. I mean, but
And he's very stuck in his
still,
ways.
but he's still a titan of that industry. Without him, wrestling never would have reached the heights it went to. It would have been a regional
That's true.
thing, and maybe that's a blessing and a curse. Because Vince McMahon did some amazing things as the Mr. McMahon character, and he was very edgy and cutting edge, and he pushed the envelope, and at the time he had enough business savvy to get back and allow some of his talent to do certain things and stuff like that over time, and just look the other way because it was working. But now, it's a shame to see what it's become. But
Yeah.
man, I think I think we kind of driven the point home. We'd love to hear from the viewers if possible. Let's wrap this up. You got any last thoughts?
Any last thoughts? Ashes to ashes, dust to WWE. That's basically all I could say. I mean, I don't even really watch it anymore. I'm happy that I was able to take my son to a wrestling show. He was able to see it live, the WWE show. But other than that, like, I found myself into more indie wrestling now because it's hard for me to love wrestling anymore because the main one, WWE, is just not. It's just not. The production is always A1, always top notch, but it's just the show is just trash, man. And I'm not watching AEW because it's all over the place. They're still trying to find themselves. So it's yeah.
Well, the only thing I'll say is my hope is that somebody, I don't care what promotion it is, it don't even have to be any of the two that we're talking about right this second. Somebody will pick up the mantle and say we're gonna go back and do things the way that they used to be done. And let's try that. And if it doesn't work, fine. We'll find a different way. But let's try to get back. Somebody will come in and make it relevant again. I mean, with any luck, that's the one hope I have. Somebody will come in and do something different to change it and back to either what it was or to make it actually better. And
That's a high hope.
Yep, that is my hope. I mean, but again, that's like you say, it's a high hope, it's wishful thinking at this point. I think we might have seen all there is to see, and that's what makes it really sad. But man, take us home.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on this fantastic episode of us ranting and raving and reminiscing on what used to be WWE. Follow us on all our social media platforms: YouTube, It's Best Damn Wrestling Podcast. Subscribe. We're on the road to 1,000. Please help us get there.
Please.
We got Best Damn Wrestling stories, and of course, you got the podcast episodes. Every episode of our podcast is on there. The Dark Side of the Ring. You guys still love those. You drive the numbers up on it every month. We see it. Hit us up on Twitter. I still see the followers, and Instagram. Hit us up. We're very friendly. You can inbox us. We'll respond. You can DM us. We'll respond.
Yep.
We haven't gotten into doing any interviews. We've been getting some DMs about interviews. Like we haven't stepped into that realm yet. Hopefully one day we will. But until then, stay in touch with us. Listen to us on Anchor so you can listen to us on the go. And like Sarah said earlier, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can be the first to know every time we drop something. And thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks, guys. We'll catch you next time.